Also this morning, concerns over COVID are mounting once again. Cases on the rise in the United States. The daily average climbing to 66,000. That's up 50% over the last 2 weeks. Deaths up over 30% over that same period. And now the vaccine push is taking a hit. The FDA moving to restrict the use of Johnson & Johnson's one-shot dose due to the rare risk of blood clots. All this in a week that the U.S. crossed a grim milestone, 1 million COVID-related deaths. Joining us now to talk about all of it is White House COVID-19 response coordinator, Dr. Ashish Jha. Dr. Jha, good morning to you. Good to see you.
Good morning, Hoda. Thanks for having me here.
The numbers are stunning. Actually, in the last 3 weeks, cases have gone up 70%. And we were looking back at the calendar, and it was 3 weeks ago that the airlines lifted their mask mandates because of that judge's order. Do you guys see a direct correlation between those mask mandates being lifted and the numbers we're seeing right now?
Yeah, Hoda, it's a really good question. I think what's driving the increase in infections across the country right now is this very contagious new subvariant, BA2. It is spreading in large parts of the country. It's the dominant variant here in the Northeast and in the Midwest and in other parts of the country as well. So I think that's the primary driver. Still believe that masking on airplanes would have been helpful and for the federal judge not to have intervened. But I think the primary driver here is that very contagious subvariant.
Well, given that contagious subvariant and the numbers going higher, can we expect to see mask mandates put in place again?
Yeah, so, you know, what we're suggesting, what we're expecting is that we're going to have localities make those decisions. You know, the CDC has laid out a map and an approach to when to think about mask mandates, really driven by three factors: infections, hospitalizations, hospital capacity. Most of the country remains in the green, not recommending to have indoor mask mandates, but we will see localities make that decision on a case-by-case basis.
The numbers are staggering. I mean, when we said the word, the 1 million people have died of COVID-19. That's more than the Spanish flu. It's actually more than the population of Atlanta times 2. I don't know if you had a chance to break down those numbers, Dr. Jha, but of those million people, were you able to determine who in that group was vaccinated and who was not?
Yeah, so we do track that. What we know is that a vast majority of Americans who have perished from this disease were unvaccinated. In the latest round of infections that we saw, that big Omicron surge in January, most of the deaths occurred either in unvaccinated people or people who were not boosted. So vaccines remain the best way to protect yourself, especially getting boosted. But every one of those deaths, vaccinated or unvaccinated, is a tragedy, and we've got to do everything we can to prevent that.
Let's talk about another headline, Dr. Jha. It's the White House Correspondents' Dinner. There were a handful of people who tested positive for that. The president was in attendance at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It was, 2,600 people, I think, in this closed room. Dr. Fauci said himself that he made the choice not to go because of his risk assessment. If you had a do-over, would you tell the president of the United States, would you have asked him not to attend that event?
Well, I think if we take a step back here, Hoda, and look at that event, look at events like that, everybody was vaccinated and boosted. Everybody had a negative test. I think the question is, are there ways of making gatherings safer or not? And I believe that the White House Correspondents' Dinner did the things that we know make the event safer. The president made a choice, and based on all of the facts and based on the fact that there are those sort of protections in place. And I think that's the safe way to gather together. And I actually encourage people, if they're going to gather, to use those tools to make it a safer thing to do.
All right. And just quickly at the end here, the J&J vaccine, a lot of folks did get that vaccine. And now we're hearing from the FDA. It's sort of like if you have a choice, choose Pfizer or Moderna because of the possibility, the remote possibility of blood clots. For the folks who've already gotten that vaccine, are they at any risk?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, what we know is extremely rare risk. And here's the key point. All of those rare events happen in the first couple of weeks after you've gotten vaccinated. So if you're more than a couple of weeks out, you're in the clear. We haven't seen any cases come up beyond a few weeks. So if you've gotten one of these vaccines, the J&J vaccine, you're protected and you're out of that window where that rare risk can happen.
Dr. Jha, do you like your new gig there at the White House?
It's a challenge, but, it is an opportunity to serve the American people, and that really is an honor of a lifetime. Hoda.
All right. You're doing it well. Dr. Jha, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.